Hello and welcome to the Jay Duke Show on the Horse Network. This is the show that brings you the biggest stars, and today we have Irish superstar Shane Sweetnam, who's going to be joining us in a moment, and I'm very excited about this interview. The Irish riders have been just cleaning it up here in 2021, and we're going to talk to one of the very best in just a few moments. I want to thank Horse Network for making this possible, and my producer, Carly Sparks, behind the scenes, and EquiVault is bringing this show today. EquiVault is the #1 place to learn about online training. They send you a map of your arena. It has all the jumps and materials that you're going to need for all of your training exercises, from gymnastics to lead changes to young horses to preparing for Grand Prix or Maclay finals or 100 derbies. There's over 400 lessons online at the EquiVault.com. And like I said, every Monday you get a new lesson sent to you. So check them out. It's a great way to enhance your training at home. So I'm going to introduce our very special guest today, and this is Shane Sweetnam, and he has a fantastic resume. Currently, Shane is 34th in the world in the FEI computer rankings, a very high-ranked rider. He's represented Ireland in over 50 Nations Cups, including the World Equestrian Games at Tryon. He was on the team that won gold medal at the European Championships in 2017. He currently has 8 horses competing in FEI competition, so just a fabulous and deep string of mounts for him. And just 2 weeks ago, he got his first ever 5-star win in the $400,000 Grand Prix in Wellington, Florida, which was the first 5-star class of the year. Shane, welcome to the Jay Duke Show.
All right, thanks for having me, Jay.
Thanks. And where are you joining us from today? Are you in Florida at the moment?
Yeah, I'm at home in Wellington, enjoying our day off.
Nice. And you spend quite a bit of time now in Wellington. Is that correct? You split your time between there and Kentucky.
Yeah, so Wellington's our home. My kids go to school here. We're here most of the year, and then we're lucky enough to be based at Spiko's Farm in Kentucky, in Lexington, Kentucky, during the summer, and we have a house up there as well. So we're lucky to be in the sun most of the year.
Yes, absolutely. And we will get to that in a little bit about how you moved to America and Kentucky and then to Florida. But I want to start off with your beginning in horses. So you started off, you're from Ireland, you started in Ireland, and, how did you get into, I know your parents were involved with horses. You can share with the viewers your story about how you started in your training as a child.
It's obviously started with my parents. They were working people, but it was a hobby for them, and I was lucky enough to be the youngest of 5 kids. And by the time they got to me, all my siblings had rode, so they had a good bit of experience and knowledge of the sport. So I think I started competing when I was 7 on 12-2s, and I was lucky enough. My parents drove me along and kept me motivated and gave me a lot of opportunities to really get going in the sport. And even by the time I was still in ponies, I was traveling to pony shows in Europe, competing against the best in Europe. And actually, I think we won a bronze European medal in Prix in 97, I think. So, I had, thanks to my parents, been lucky enough to get a really good taste of it early on.
And let's talk about that. So you started off, your first taste of competition was in the pony jumper ring. They don't have the hunters per se over there. And I mean, I always felt that the pony jumpers are a fantastic way to kind of learn about riding and learn the ropes, and a great way to educate young riders. So how is it over there as far as, is that kind of like what all the kids started off on as pony jumpers? I mean, they didn't start off doing anything else but those ponies, correct?
Well, it's changed. It's changed over the years, but they do have a working hunter division there. So there are some kids that did start off showing and then working hunters and then jumpers. But mostly they started in the jumpers. It's very competitive and it's very fun, but it's a sort of a system of a sink and swim. If you're good and you're competitive and you have a good pony, you can go and compete, but you definitely have to learn to adapt quickly. But it's got more technical over the years, and there's more training involved, and it's more technical. And as you can see, there's lots of good Irish riders coming through the system. But yeah, I think compared to when I was a kid, they have a lot more of a system in place now with training and stuff as kids.
And what height did you jump the ponies over there when you were starting it? You know, tell our viewers again what the size of the jumps were on these little ponies.
They're big jumps, and they're still, I think, big jumps. A lot of the Americans or Canadians come for Dublin Horse Show, and they can't believe the size that the ponies are jumping and how fast they're going. So it was still the same for us when we were younger. Like your small pony used to jump 110 or at least 110, a meter 10. And 14.2 is the European Championships. I remember the individual last round was 140. That's with a large pony. So, you know, it's it was serious competition. But the animals, obviously, like horses, they were amazing. And, you know, you wouldn't be there without having the good animals. So, but the riders had to be able to do it too.
And they're still doing that today in the ponies, like the large ponies are still jumping up to 140 still today.
At the championships, and as far as I know, it's been a while since I've been at one, but if you follow them, you know, look, there's all the best kids that come out of ponies. You know, you know that they're coming because of what they're winning in ponies. Like Bertram won so much in ponies. So yeah, no, it's still very, very competitive, and they still have to be jumping that standard.
And at what age do the riders typically stay on the ponies until they graduate to the horses? I mean, it used to be they usually around 15, 16 years old, they graduate to the horses. Is that your experience with that?
Yeah, I think so. I think if it's still, you know, the age is the end of 16, but most, like even when I was in ponies, I had a couple of horses by the time I was 15. So I was doing both. I was getting quite tall. So, but in general, if you have a good enough pony, you probably stay in it as long as you can.
That's cool. And you know, you mentioned Bertram Allen, and he just won the 5-star a few days ago, and the Irish riders are just looking fantastic here in 2021, and which is normal for the Irish riders. So I want to ask you, you know, what is the secret to the talent that is coming out of Ireland? Is it the show program? Is it the training program? Is it, you know, something that you're eating in the kitchen that's creating all these fantastic riders over there? Like where's all this talent and success coming from?
Ireland's a horse country, whether it's jumpers or thoroughbreds. You know, there's lots of people involved, and they start at a young age. So it's always been the case that you know, all these kids that get going with it, it's very, very competitive. So like any sport, if you're competing, you want to win, you have to improve yourself, and you have to be really hungry for it. So that's, I think, a lot of the riders, you know, including myself, you come through, and the same age group that time was Richie at the highest level, but we were all exactly the same age. And like, say, Bertram's age, there's a similar group, you know, and for you to win every week, you have to beat these guys. So every week you have to bring your A game, and keep improving. So I think that's part of it. That, you know, the level of competition is so high, you have to really work at it to be the best, even at your local level. And then, in fairness to Horse Sport Ireland and Show Jumping Ireland, they've improved the training over the years. I see that they do lots of clinics now. Back in my day, flat work was non-existent. Where now my nieces and nephews in Ireland, you know, started at quite a young age to do flat and dressage and lessons and pole work and grids, you know, which I think I was 20 before I knew what a diagonal was. So, you know, that just tells you the difference in systems now. So it's you know, I think in Ireland, in fairness to Horse Sport Ireland and Show Jumping Ireland, they've also improved the opportunities for clinics and good training.
Wow, that is interesting. So let's talk about that little bit. You have 3 young children that are coming up in the junior ranks and the pony ranks right now in America. So compare what they're learning today to what you were learning at that same stage, and what you see, as far as the different systems and the pros and cons of that different system between what you learn and what your kids are currently learning.
Yeah, so obviously, because I train a good bit, this is a question we get asked a lot, the difference in systems. I think, the American system is very technical from the start. They learn about their position, how to use their aids correctly, the technicality of riding quite quickly, numbers, being straight, using your corners. Like I said, the position of a rider, style of a rider, so they're, especially in America, they learn that very, very quick, which is a very good positive. In Ireland, like I said, that's improved now, but like when I was that age, you didn't read my position, which still isn't fantastic, but it wasn't the priority. It was more about going who would win, so I think you can take, you'd like to have that bit of rawness and survival, and for the kids over here as well, they have to learn to adapt, because that's what you're going to have to do sometimes in the course. It's not always going to go to plan, so you have to be able to wing it sometimes, and that's what normally makes the better riders the best, is that they're able to adapt to that situation. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting topic. The other thing is, when I was a kid, there was we didn't have grooms, so it was us and our parents, and every morning I'd go out and feed the ponies, and you do their stables, and then you go off to school, and then you come home from school, you ride your ponies, and you put them away, and you cleaned your tack, and that was your everyday thing. And it was, I used to hate it, actually, or I used to love some of it, but I used to hate some of it, because it was a lot of work in my head, back then, even though nowadays it stands to me, because it's horsemanship. You learn the ins and outs and the little details of the horses, and that's something, my kids, we try to show them and everything, but it's different. We do have the staff working for us, and we try to teach them horsemanship, but it's a little bit harder. But if they want it enough and they're fanatical enough, they'll learn that side of it too.
Right. And that's the second time now you mentioned kind of the culture you grew up with in Ireland, and being, it's a horse country and a horse culture that you grew up in. So, I think that you answered that question as far as where that success comes from, because you just learn, so you don't just learn in a lesson, and you don't just learn in the show ring. Obviously, that's a part of it, but you learn so much in the barn and in the field and in the stall with these horses, and how to work with them and develop that trust and communication. So I think that really answers my question about the success of the Irish riders. So let's talk about.
I just say even just in Wellington and all over America, there's so many Irish involved in the sport, whether they're managers or trainers or grooms, or just all around the sport. And it's because of that upbringing, even though they might not be the best riders or whatever, they've been able to have a good career because of that horsemanship when they were kids. So it's just to bring that point. I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, no question about that. So in 2004, you decided to make the move to America, and obviously that was a big move for you. And what prompted that move, and how did that decision come about?
So I actually went to college in Limerick, and I got a degree after. I got a degree in computers, and I was a bit unsure what I was going to do then. It wasn't my plan to actually become a professional show jumper, and so I decided I'd take a year out before I went down another path. And I went to Holland for a year, and I trained with a great rider called Rulif Brill. And then after that, then I felt that maybe I'd go and make some connections in America if I did want to be selling horses, or, and just to see what all the hype was a bit about Wellington. And I was lucky enough that I got an opportunity to come to Wellington. And after that, once I was here for a few months, then I realized that there was a lot of opportunities for me to make a career in it. I wasn't still not really thinking about the, being a top show jumper, but more of making a good living and doing what I love to do. Mm-hmm. And so when I was here, actually, I met Margie Engel, and she was riding for Hidden Creek at the time, and they needed a good young rider to do the young horses, and I got offered a job to come back after that to go work for them, and I took it.
Nice. Margie was a guest on the show, and to this day, definitely one of my favorite people that I've ever interviewed. She was absolutely fantastic, and still having a great year at what she's doing in 2021 with her mounts and horses. So,
she's brilliant.
What a super contact for you to make over here. And so, how did you get started with the situation with Spy Coast Farm and all the success? And I also want to talk about how long you've been there and that longevity and how that consistency has contributed to your success.
Yeah, so I've been with Spy Coast nearly 15 years now. The Lisa Laurie, who's owned Spy Coast, she's like a mother figure to me. We've been great friends from the start. I actually first started training her daughter, and from that she bought a horse for me to jump, and then we were lucky enough. Then we hit off a great relationship, and we ended up buying some stallions and mares that she wanted to breed, and luckily enough they also ended up being top jumpers. And she's driven her breeding program from strength to strength in that time. She started it off with, that time she didn't have anything breeding, and now she has, I'm afraid to say what number of animals in Spy Coast in Kentucky, but she has, I think, around 300. So she's really going strong.
And how would you say, and I want to follow up on that, because you do see, a lot of horses changing hands with different riders, and owners moving around and riders moving into different situations. That's a common thing in the sport. You've managed to do it a different way, and obviously it's been very, very successful for you. So what advice would you have out there for, say, the young riders that are looking to follow even somewhat in your footsteps, to helping to create that success in a relationship like you've had with Spy Coast, like, the longevity that you've had there, how you've made that last? What's the secret there?
Firstly, we're very good friends, so that, if we didn't have a good relationship outside of horses, it wouldn't work. But firstly, that's the case. And then, we've been very straight up to each other. I work very hard at what I do. She works very hard at what she does. And we try to adapt to different situations. It's not always hunky-dory, but, we try to work towards the same goals and the same direction. And, so far it's really worked. And we've been lucky. We've had good horses, and she's bred some good horses already. And she, that's really her passion, is the breeding. And, we're definitely working in the same direction.
And do you help her with the breeding and the bloodlines, and you're a partner in all of that part of it as well? And how big a part of your success is your knowledge of breeding?
We discuss a lot of her options. Obviously, when she started, she's learning, and we're both still learning. I'd obviously have a good bit of knowledge into different lines and different stallions, and going to bigger shows that, obviously we see the other good stallions. Mm-hmm. I try to participate and help out, but breeding can be a little bit of a lottery, and I think it's more experience, and over the time it's got better. Her program has got better and better, and she has a very good team in Kentucky, between the vets and the young horse program there. That's, every year they go from strength to strength. David O'Brien, who rides out of there, I think he won every final in Tryon last year. So that just shows that she's doing something right. So I think it'll keep improving. She tries to always to adapt to the situation.
That's great. So 2 weeks ago, you had a big win, your first 5-star international win. It was the first 5-star class in worldwide of the year. And obviously with what happened in 2020, it's kind of, it's one of the first big events that we've seen. So we're going to show the jump off here in just a moment. I'd like you to talk us through that jump off class. And if you have a few comments as we're watching you around, that would be great for the viewers to experience. What was it like but before we play that video, what was it like to top the podium against the very best horses and riders in the world?
Yeah, amazing. It was a little bit of monkey off my back because I've been close a few times to a 5-star win, and it was always not just happening exactly the way I wanted. So, it was just great for it to happen. And actually, when I went through the timers, I was going, because I was in the same second, but I wasn't sure. I was thinking, oh no, so I'm in second again. But then when I realized I was first, it was very exciting.
Yeah, it was a very exciting class for sure. So, Carly, we're going to play that video of the jump off so everyone can see Shane's big win in Wellington.
Yeah, so from the start, my plan, I was last to go, and I wanted to start with a good rhythm. I didn't count the number on the rollback because I know he's naturally very quick, Alejandro. And the same here, I just wanted to keep him. I think some did one less there to fence 1. I did the right number to fence 2, which was 7. And then I just wanted to make sure to clear the Liverpool. A few people had knocked that. And then coming home with him, he's naturally quick. So I just wanted to stay on it. And I knew if I did stay on it with the plan with him, it would be close. Yeah,
and so we had that. We didn't quite see that last video there into that combination, but it was very, very close time. And yeah, that Liverpool did cause a lot of problems for a lot of horses across there. So do you think it's a big advantage to go at the end of a jump off? Like, do you like to be first in the ring, or do you like to be at the end, or what do you think as a competitor is your best spot to be going back into a jump off?
It depends on the jump off. In that scenario, that class, the best place was to be last because there were so many good horses ahead of you. You had Clooney, and you had Bertram, and you had Devin Ryan with and Beasy. So you knew that they were going to be clear and fast. So for me to be last, obviously, I knew what I had to do. So for that class, for sure, it was the best position to be in, and I was happy to be in that position that night. There's other days where if you're earlier in the class, you can be poker smart. You can, can be clever about a jump off, and you can force people into mistakes. But it wasn't the case that night.
Right, and that is every class does have its own character, and that worked out very well for you. So let's talk about how show jumping has changed a little bit. You've been competing internationally now, successfully for a good 15 years. And, we've seen the courses change somewhat, and we've seen the horses change as well. You've had a lot of success with developing many, many different horses to the top FEI level of competition. What are you seeing as far as how your choices in horses, as far as the type of horse and how you're training them, has changed in the past 15 years?
The sport keeps changing. Even now because of the new boot rule, it's a new obstacle for us that we're thinking about horses with that have better back ends. It also helps the course designers that maybe it doesn't have to be as big or as tall because it is a little bit of a change. But now, and also time allowed is a massive thing. So the more the horses the more modern horses have to have a lot of blood and have to be naturally quick. The more old fashioned big scopy horses, there's not as many shows for them, but there is still shows for them. There is still Spruce Meadows where the jumps are very, very big and spread out. The same in Aachen. The same can be said for the end of a championship. So it looks like in the modern day Grand Prix horse, 5-star horse, you need a fast horse to be able to win it. As we saw in the jump off the other day with Alejandro, the same with Bertram the other night. It was so fast. The same in Qatar with Christian Elliman. His round was unbelievably quick. So speed is a big factor in winning the bigger Grand Prix nowadays. So it's the more naturally faster horse has an advantage.
Yeah, and it is important to look for those horses. Even now, like just the time they spend in the air can be the difference. Every mind between the jumps, and just how long they are from takeoff to landing can be the difference between the first and second place horses. So
for sure, yeah.
Really seeing the breeding, I think, go that direction and bring more and more blood back to the sport. Do you think, is it a positive that there is less of the bravery and maybe the scope tests than there used to be? Obviously, that class that you won, the jumps were enormous. There's no question those are big, big jumps. But it has become such a technical and fast test. Would you like to see some more of the bravery tests included in that, or are you happy with the way that it's going as a competitor?
No, personally, and this is my taste, I like a bit of the old-fashioned jumping, not all the time, but I think we see the Spruce Meadows Derby is an amazing class, and I won it. It's a while ago now, but I won it. But I used to love derbies, but nowadays, they're not as big as they used to be. There's not as many people that do them as there used to be. So I would prefer if that doesn't go out of the sport, because that's the roots of it. That's how it got going. Now the same with the big jumping in Spruce and in Aachen. We need that. That's the best. The Masters and the Rolex Grand Prix or Geneva or these big classes. It's amazing. Just even walk the courses, and then you see how many horses are so good to jump it. So it just shows off the very, very best. So I hope it doesn't dwindle down and turn into speed rather than power. We still have to have power, and you see it, like I said, in Aachen that time. You have a lot of these horses. They're able to jump those classes clear, and it's just the exhibition of the best. It
is. You're well known for developing a lot of horses that have gone to international success with other riders as well. Do you have like a favorite horse that's gone on to top success with someone else, like a story about a young one that you developed and went on to fame?
Yeah, so this was early on in my career. I sold Danny Boy to BZ Madden, and even though it wasn't a championship horse for her, I sold to her as a 5-year-old, and then she went on to jump Nations Cups for America, like in Hickstead and in Dublin, and I think she won a good class in Aachen. I think she jumped the World Cup final somewhere. So that was the start of before I was even competing at a higher level, and to sell a horse that good to that good a rider gave me a taste of what the standard of a horse that should be to jump that level. So that was sort of the start of my professional career. And I'll always remember that, and it was a good lesson and a good experience for me. So,
and for the riders out there, because one of the harder things in the sport is when you have a special horse, and then someone comes along and wants to purchase it, and you have to make that decision. Well, do I let this horse go or do I hang on to it? Because many people, they want to ride and be in that ring themselves. So, how did you deal with that as far as letting some world-class talent slip through your fingers per se, and how did you deal with that emotionally to move on with your career?
It's still something I have to deal with. This is when you have good horses and there's a shortage of them, then you're always getting questions if you're going to sell them or not. I'm lucky at the moment. I have some very good loaners between Lisa Lowry and the Gilbertsons and the Vries and the Vogels. That I can keep these horses a bit longer, but there probably is a time that maybe I'll be put under pressure that I do have to sell them. So it all to do with timing, and goal orientated. And and some days you do have to say, okay, it is time to sell, and the horse moves on to new pastures and it freshens it up. For me, maybe to buy another younger horse, or to keep the show on the road, as they say.
And what would be your advice? So right now, let's say there's a 20-year-old rider watching this, and they've got a nice 6, 7, or 8-year-old horse that shows top potential. What would be your advice to that young rider to make the connections and make the sale and take that money and go with it? Or would you say, hang on to that horse and for your own personal benefit to try to get a name in the ring? What would be your advice to that rider?
I don't know, is there a right answer to this? Because no one can foresee the future. So like I said, my example with Danny Boy, that was a top horse and I owned it. I was a young rider who's turned into a very good rider. But I would say me selling it gave me more opportunity at that time, because I sold the horse. It was good income for me at the time. Then it also helped me invest in other horses, and it got me going on a different path. So if I had kept the horse, would I be in the same place? I don't know. So resources and timing is a massive thing. And all I can say to a young rider like that, if they have the resources and they really believe in the horse, you should keep it and follow that path and see how far it takes you and work hard at it. If you don't have the resources and you need to think about setting a foundation first, then you should sell it and reinvest into multiple horses and try to get there that way. So it's, like I said, I don't know what the right answer there is for that, but that's the closest thing I can give you.
I think that's an excellent answer, because it is something that a lot of people face, and to get advice from someone like yourself in that situation is great. So I'd love to ask this question about all our top riders. You've ridden so many fabulous horses, but now I'm going to put you on the spot and say, okay, you can ride for one class any horse from past or present that's ever been in the show ring. Which horse is Shane Sweetnam going to pick to ride?
That's an easy one. Hickstead.
Okay, well, yeah, Hickstead is arguably, top 3, top 5 of the best of all time. Why would you pick him?
You see me?
Yeah, we got you.
Oh, sorry. Hickstead. I saw him live a lot.
Could you say it again, please?
I saw him a lot in Spruce live when he used to win. Nearly every class. 1 second, I just lost you for a second there. Sorry.
Yeah, we've got you.
You got it. And he was amazing live. And what he did in his career was incredible. And obviously Eric was a massive part of that. I remember the time he won in Le Bol when he knocked the flag off the standard. Yes. It was just incredible. And then he reminds me a lot of a horse that I won a lot with, Cyclone, and they were similar sort of characters. So the Cyclone wasn't as good as Hickstead, but he did win an awful lot. So that horse, it was incredible. The best I've seen live anyway. So I would love to ride that horse.
Yeah, well, that's an excellent choice. And I did remember I wrote a little article on him after he passed away, and about how you could make the argument that was the greatest horse of all time in show jumping, and based on his results and what he had done. And it was an amazing horse to watch and develop. Like you said, we saw him from like a 6-year-old on up. So that was a lot of fun to watch. Well, Shane, thank you so much for being a part of the show. It was really an honor to have you on the J. Duke Show on Horse Network. Congratulations on your big win a couple weeks ago, and continued success in 2021.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Pleasure.
Thank you. Next week, we'd love you to join us. Kristen Vanderveen is on. So she's having another rider is having a fantastic 2021. So much success with the Bull Run horses. So we're really looking forward to hearing about Kristen's story. So please join us for that. The week after, there's another rider coming on. He's a guy from Britain. His name's Nick Skelton. You probably heard of him. He'll be on the show, and you're not going to want to miss that one. So very excited for that. So lots coming up on the Jay Duke Show on Horse Network. Thank you so much to the EquiVault.com for sponsoring today's show. Check them out for all your online lessons, over 400 lessons on the EquiVault.com for all of your training needs. I want to thank Carly Sparks for making this all happen. And thanks so much to Horse Network. You guys are the best. As always, respect the horse and ride safely. Have a good day.